Your favorite host is back with another episode of The Extra Point. We got plenty to talk about, and the World Series on the rise. The Extra Point starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Back at the panelist desk. Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. My name is Griffin Barfield. I'll be your host, and I'll also be somewhat of a panelist today. And I got three great panelists with me. I got Brian Warden to my left, David Poley, and Toby Corson to my right, guys. It's good to be back. I was gone last week, still on fall break. Special thanks to Patrick Driscoll, who was in the green room, I believe. And we're just going to get right into it. And we're going to go right into college football pick'ems, and we're going to start with our own school, Clemson. Whether or not last week has left a bad taste in your mouth or not, the Tigers will be traveling north to Raleigh to take on the North Carolina State Wolfpack on the CW network, believe it or not. So, guys, who do you have in this one?
I'll start. I got Clemson. You know, we're not a good team, but we're not a bad team, and NC State is not a good team. I think we'll beat them pretty handedly.
I'd like to win 8 games this season. That's pretty much it. I'm going to go with Clemson. I feel like we have a loss on the schedule with Notre Dame, unfortunately. And if we can win all of our other games, that would be great. NC State is trash. They get beat up pretty good by pretty much every good competition that comes in. Not an easy place to play, but they don't have a quarterback. They're on the backup right now, and Morris isn't good either. Armstrong wasn't good in the first place. I'm going to go Clemson. I think this is the exact type of bounce-back game that Cade and the offense need.
I'm going to go Clemson too, and it's not just because I go here. I mean, obviously it's a little bit, but also it's just the fact that just like earlier in the season with Duke, they had an awful game with Duke, big upset, and then they go into a team that's not so good. It was Charleston Southern, I believe, and FAU, and they go out and they dominate. They always have a bad game. If they have an off season like the last few years, they always have a bad game, and then they come back and they rebound right afterwards against a worse or a lesser opponent. So I don't really know how much NC State's – I've never been to a live game there, so I don't know how much their home field really is an advantage.
The problem is with NC State that you have to, it's not on campus. The stadium is not on campus. It's off.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, I think
we have trouble playing in stadiums like that, apparently.
We do have trouble. I'm gonna go Tigers all the way down. I know Clemson does have trouble playing at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They did lose 2 years ago. Before last year, but I don't trust this North Carolina, this NC State quarterback, MJ Morris. He's a freshman, he's talented, but I don't think that he's going to do well against an experienced defense. But if you like any betting pick, I think this is a very low-scoring game.
Under City.
17-10.
Under City.
Something around that, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if Clemson can bounce back away from home.
Real quick, I can't remember. Was there a really good slot wide receiver that NC State had? Was it NC State that had a really good
they had a slot receiver that played for 6 years.
Was that him?
Yeah.
And he just went out last year or something?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I was because that was the last really good person.
I don't think they have him anymore.
NC State in a little while, I don't know.
Yeah,
remember Ryan Finley?
Ryan Finley, I remember him.
Oh, yeah. That was a few
Ryan
years ago.
Finley, Devin Leary last year, but
yeah.
I don't know. Better days are ahead for NC State, in my honest opinion. But moving on, we'll go to a much better conference, the Pac-12. We have the number 8 Oregon Ducks traveling to Utah to take on the number 13 Utes. It's a battle of one-loss Pac-12 teams with hopes to make it to the Pac-12 championship. Who takes this one, Oregon or Utah? We'll start.
I'm going to go Oregon. Got to go Oregon here. I think I'm a massive believer in, water finds its level. So Utah, massive win last week against USC, knocking them out of playoff contention, sending Caleb Williams home to paint his nails. Oregon is a tough team. They're the best matchup for Utah in the Pac-12 with the way that they play football. Lanning's defense is tough. Bo Nix, incredibly experienced. You know how that offense works. Bucky Irving, great running back. I think that the pig farmer at quarterback is not going to have, 2 amazing games in a row. I'm going to go Oregon.
I'm going to be right there. I'm going to go Oregon as well. It's kind of interesting to see how fast. I mean, Pac-12 is still pretty good, but with the fast start where like 4 or 5 of the teams were undefeated, and now all of a sudden the only one left is Washington that's undefeated.
Right, but
Oregon should be, but they had to play Washington.
But think about how many just to help your point, think about all these teams that are still in playoff contention.
Exactly.
That's how great one loss doesn't rule you out.
Good.
Yeah.
And a lot of their losses have come within the Pac-12.
Exactly.
Well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said with the Oregon and the Washington, and I believe Colorado lost to USC and all. So I mean, it's very competitive. It's kind of sad to know that it's going to be gone next year because, just how good they are.
Absolutely.
But I'm going Oregon. It's really tough to just go against them. I mean, if it wasn't for a missed field goal, they would be in overtime with Washington possibly winning,
right.
and maybe even 6th, 5th ranked. And also, I thought it was really cool that Bo Nix, wasn't it last week that he set the record, 54th straight start, or 54th career start?
starts, yeah.
Cool, the right word for that? A little sad,
No, it was-
maybe.
Maybe
was
too
kinda
cool
cool.
for school.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it was maybe interesting is a better word because
there you go.
his first career start was against Justin Herbert against Oregon, and then now it's 6 years or whatever it is, 5 years later, however long he's been in here. So
Full circle.
Yeah, I'm going Oregon as well. Utah has had some good wins, USC, but they also have had a couple. Their loss to OSU, I don't think is helping them. And Oregon is a very, very good team. They were in a shootout with Washington. They've handled all the rest of their opponents pretty handedly. I don't see them losing. I think they're going to want to stay in playoff contention, and I think they're going to fight really hard for that in this game.
do you think they could make it? Could Washington and Oregon both?
How many? Yeah, I was exactly going to say that. How many teams in the Pac-12 do you think are legitimate playoff contenders as of now? I would say Oregon, Utah, Washington.
I don't think Utah.
You don't think?
I don't think Utah is, no.
If they go, but if they win out from here, they're in.
I would have to agree with that, but I don't think they do it.
No.
I don't think they do it.
I almost wonder if Michigan, if something happens,
And I
where
think-
they get banned from a bowl game this year. I mean, because of the whole scandal.
They can't impose it
Yeah.
this season.
They can't. Okay, so it has to be
It would have
next
to be
season.
next season.
Yeah.
But couldn't they revoke any championship or title that they win?
That doesn't matter.
It depends.
It's like Reggie Bush's Heisman. They vacated that, but
It's still there. So.
obviously, who won the 2006 Heisman? Reggie Bush.
This might be very regretful, but we're going to do a clean sweep.
Ooh.
Take Oregon away.
Every time I doubt Bryson Barnes, he kills me, especially on the show.
I just do not trust Bryson Barnes. I really don't. If Cam Rising was the quarterback, I think Utah could make the playoff, but I just have not believed in him. And I think if Utah has any chance against a competent defense like Oregon does, I don't think that it's going to be a shootout. I think Oregon's defense is eventually going to prevail. It didn't against Washington, but Washington's attack is much more dynamic than Utah. So I'm going to go ahead and take Oregon there. And I think it's really weird that whoever loses this game is out of playoff contention and out of Pac-12 contention, but they're probably the best two-loss team after next week for sure. But we'll find out. We'll find out Saturday. It's a 3:30 game. Next up, we're going to go back to the ACC. We have two ACC championship hopefuls. We got the number 20 Duke Blue Devils traveling to Louisville to take on the number 18 Cardinals. Louisville trying to bounce back off a loss. Well, so is Duke as well. But who do you guys have in this one?
I can start us off. I'm going to go Duke. This season's actually been very impressive for them. I mean, no one really thought they were going to be up here, and obviously with the first week of beating Clemson and then going on to taking Notre Dame down to the wire. And Riley Leonard had gotten hurt in that game. If he didn't, maybe they would have won. But just Duke, I have more trust in that team than Louisville. Louisville's been very good, but I think Duke has proved, especially with the first half last week, if they come out and do a whole game. I mean, they were beating Florida State for the first half, but and just kind of lost it in the second half. But I'm going to go with Duke.
Oh, yeah, I'm going with Duke as well. I may regret that. You know, Riley Leonard still is playing on a high ankle sprain, and those injuries can always be very iffy. You never know if they're going to be 100% good to go, and a minor tweak is going to really hurt them. But I think if he's healthy and he's 100% ready to go, they'll be able to win this. But Louisville is a very scary team, and I doubted their offense a couple weeks ago. I think they've proved to be a solid offense, and their defense is really strong. So I think it's going to be a shootout.
I'm still going to doubt their offense, and I'm going to go with Duke. Reluctantly, Louisville's not an easy place to play whatsoever, especially we saw how rocking that stadium was when they played Notre Dame. Really, really cool atmosphere. Riley Leonard's health really worries me. But I do have faith in the backup quarterback, Henry Bellin, because he went to my high school. Yeah, I'm going to go Duke. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go Duke. But I think it's going to be low scoring and close.
Henry Bellin was Bergen Catholic.
Henry Bellin went to Bergen Catholic his freshman year, and then he transferred to Cardinal Hayes in New York.
Okay. Well, regardless, I'm gonna take Louisville. I'm gonna take 2 points, as David said. Louisville are at home. You saw how they played against Notre Dame, and they blew the roof off that thing. And secondly, I really do not trust Riley Leonard. If they try to rush him back, I think that he's just going to get us out for the season injury. So I'm going to go with Louisville. I love their rushing attack. I love the way that they move the ball. Offensively, I think Jeff Brom's doing something great there. And Louisville knows it. If they win this game, they have a very good chance of making the ACC championship game contest against Florida State. So I'd love to see it happen. And you know what? I'm going to go against the panel here and go.
How much do you trust Jack Plummer, though?
I don't trust him a lot. But I think I trust him over a very injured Riley Leonard.
Fair enough.
With especially the whole ankle thing. And you never know, but I think that game's going to be a really fun one. That game is a 3:30 game as well on ESPN. But moving on, we're going to go to the SEC. We're talking the number 21 Tennessee Volunteers trying to bounce back. After a loss against Alabama last week, they'll be traveling to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats, who have been ranked at some points in the season. But regardless, who do you guys have in this one?
I'll go. I got Kentucky at home. Kentucky is honestly kind of a tough place to play at home. When they get a big game, they get their crowd rolling. I think Tennessee has to be demoralized coming into this game. I mean, they're out of playoff contention with 2 losses now, even though they lost to Alabama, who's obviously Alabama. I think that Kentucky is going to have the edge. The SEC, it's a night game. Any SEC stadium at night is going to be hard to play in, and I just don't think Tennessee is going to have any major motivations to win this game.
Yeah, the state of Kentucky knows football. I mean, Louisville at night, Kentucky at night, both places get real rowdy. Underrated football state, I would definitely say, in the entire country. But I'm going to go Tennessee. I think this is a must-win game for the Volunteers. I think this is a must-win game for Josh Heupel. I think it's a prove-it game for Joe Milton. I think it's a prove-it for the offensive scheme outside the numbers. I think that Bama pressed the button that we haven't seen in like 2 years now, where we were so used to from like 2009 to 2020, where they press the Bama button and it's okay, we're stopped, you're done. They pressed that button in the second half. Like we saw that was old school Bama, that was outer domination. It's like what Georgia did to South Carolina earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a demoralizing thing, but you cannot give up now. Like if you give up, you might even miss a bowl game. Like you could be a 6-6 type team if you die now. But I think this is a must-win game. I don't think Kentucky's defense is particularly great. I'm worried about the rush attack. Ray Davis is absolutely phenomenal, and Tennessee cannot stop the run. But I'm gonna go Tennessee. I think Joe Milton is gonna prove he's worse than what we thought he was, but better what we think he is.
That's very well said, because that's a good clip. I'm gonna go Tennessee as well. I think they had such high hopes. I understand they lost their, obviously, Hendon Hooker into the draft. They also, and then the year as well, but they also lost Jalen Hyatt, a few other key factors in that team last year.
The biggest thing is they lost the receivers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they still had a little bit. Some people were there, like maybe they could slip into the top 10, maybe they could still contend. And all of a sudden, it's just kind of, it hasn't been as expectations were set. So for me, I think it's very building upon what David said, a prove-it game. This is which way are you going to go the rest of the year. They have some high recruits coming in. They have, I believe it's the best, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, best recruit receiver in 2024.
Mike Matthews.
Mike Matthews.
Stud.
Yes, I was hoping he was coming to Clemson, but he chose the wrong orange. But he chose it best for him. So I think this is a prove-it game where is this team going to thrive, and is it on the come-up, or is it coming apart? That's where I think this game's going to come. But I think Tennessee will win. Like Toby said, Kentucky's a very tough place to play. Any SEC game is very tough to play. But I believe that Joe Milton will be able to carry it through, and I think Tennessee will win.
You think last year was lightning in a bottle?
No.
You don't think it was a fluke?
No.
I don't think it was.
Get right into it then.
What?
You going to go Rocky Top?
No, I'm gonna go Kentucky though. The only thing is, I think Tennessee recruiting-wise are incredible. They have a great backup quarterback. I forget his name though.
Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to slip of the tongue. I didn't want to stumble over my words, but I just really do not trust Joe Milton away from home. Yes, he was dialed in against Alabama, and then, like David said, Alabama pulled the Bama button, just absolutely left no answer for Tennessee. But I think Kentucky got some good pieces. Obviously, I'm very high on Devin Leary as a quarterback. I thought that he was very good with NC State before he went down last year. The rushing attack as well, I think they got a lot of good things there. Tennessee can't stop the rush, as you saw last week. The receiving end is maybe a little bit iffy where I think the Vols could take advantage of, but I just think Joe Milton's way too inconsistent, and I think Kentucky, especially at night in an SEC atmosphere, I think they get it done. If it was at Tennessee, though, I take the Vols, but just because it's the home field advantage, I think it's so huge in college football. I'm going to roll with Kentucky.
And Nico's a young player, isn't he?
He's a freshman.
He's a freshman. And I think they have another high recruit coming in for like a quarterback, aren't they? Semi-high, like 4-3.
I think it might just be like Nico's the guy.
Yeah,
Nico's the guy. It's just going to be some other quarterback.
Someone
like
they need to develop under him
exactly.
so that they become the guy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Anywho, we're going to move on to the next segment of our show. We're going to be moving on to the write-in option. We're going to be going over a couple different topics around the sports world. And we're going to start in the NBA. Yesterday, the NBA tipped off their first two games. I believe it was Lakers, Nuggets, and Suns and the Warriors. And then the rest of the panel goes on tonight. So, your write-in option, who is going to win this season in the NBA? Anyone want to start?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I got the Milwaukee Bucks. That trade to get Damian Lillard, I think, is a big deal. Damian Lillard has never played with a star player in his entire career. I think C.J. McCollum is the best player that he's played with so far. And now he's got Giannis. I think that is going to be the best duo in the league. They're going to be practically unstoppable. And they're just they have the experiments. They've kept their core from when they made the championship run. I don't see any team beating them, especially because they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, going out in the first round last year. The East is tough, but I think they're going to come through.
Now, you might call me crazy, but I'm going to say the Wizards are going to make the playoff. They will not win the championship. I have the Bucks. I'm going to choose the Bucks. I'm not crazy. I'm a Wizards fan, but I'm not that crazy. I do think that the Bucks are the best team. I think they have the best chance of winning. Mm-hmm. Giannis and Dame are a great 1-2 punch. Giannis, obviously, rebound, rim. He's kind of working on his shot a little bit, still in the working mode. Just signed a deal.
You don't need to anymore, though.
No. And Dame's got the outside, so you don't have to worry about it.
Throwing Chris Middleton in.
But I was looking at the Celtics. Obviously, Celtics are another big name. Nuggets are a big name. I don't see the Nuggets going back to back. They've had, I think it's like the last 6 or 7 years, it's been a different champion every single year.
Yeah.
If I'm correct.
Hasn't been since the Warriors.
No.
Yeah, exactly. From like
16,
17.
17.
Yeah.
And so the Celtics look great. I just don't trust them in the playoffs. I mean, they might be a great regular season team. They might go 100, or not 100, sorry, I'm thinking baseball. They might go 60, 70 wins possibly. I don't see them making it at least to the championship. Or at least winning the championship for that matter. So I have more trust in the Bucks, especially since Giannis has been there, and I think Giannis is a great leader into the championship, or into the playoffs. So I would go.
Chris Middleton's definitely the best third option in the NBA now, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
He's an X factor for me. He was so Buster Boom last year in the playoffs that, especially with his health, if he's healthy, I think the Bucks are the best team in the East.
Yep.
Hands
You
down.
think he's washed now?
But he only played
The thing is that
last year?
he got incredibly injury prone towards the end of last season, and that's kind of led the Bucks' downfall. That's why they got Lillard, I think, as the second option, because they couldn't really trust Middleton. But if Middleton's back and he's healthy,
it takes a workload off of him now. They can rest him. He doesn't have to play as many minutes.
Exactly.
Plus, with that guy's shot, like if you're laxing off in the corner, that's 25 a night.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. David, your
I feel like a lot of people, like, I hear no Nuggets. Like, whenever I hear no Nuggets, which scares me a little bit because, like, they're a phenomenal team. They don't really lose any besides Bruce Brown. But I'm going to go the Boston Celtics. I love what they did in the little moves, and I think it's finally their year. You know, given Jaylen Brown that monster deal, it's going to be like, okay, go get yours now. Like, stop trying to prove it. Stop going with your left hand. Like, work on your left hand. Like, Jason Tatum's going to, like, continue that superstardom leap. I love that Kristaps Porzingis down low. Al Horford's still there. Losing Robert Williams, tough, but you bring in a guy like Drew Holiday. Gotta love it. They're kind of getting away from the traditional aspect of their team and getting more into the modern NBA. Getting rid of those traditional bigs and really going into a more stretch big aspect and focusing on Drew Holiday, the leadership at guard. I like it a lot. I'm gonna go with the Boston Celtics. I think the winner's gonna come out of the East.
I think they in my opinion, undeniably have the best starting five.
Yeah, they're just going to wear down teams' defenses.
The Drew Holiday pickup was fabulous. I think it was one of the best moves of the offseason.
He's just a better version of Marcus Smart.
He is. He is a much better version of Marcus Smart, and I just think he also has a playoff experience. He's a great leader. Is he 30 now? 28?
He's older. He's around 30, maybe a little bit older.
And also, it matters less in the NBA, but Boston is such a fun place to play, and it's a very tough place to play as well.
I mean, it's like the Lakers of the East Coast, basically. That's what they are.
Another tough place to play, out of the West, like you said. No one's talked about the Nuggets. I'm going to talk about the Nuggets.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this Nuggets team, and I look at teams when it comes to who is an NBA champion and who's got the all-pro caliber player, the all-star. The bench is huge. And I think the Denver Nuggets fit that perfectly. The only problem I could see with the Denver Nuggets, especially with the loss of Bruce Brown, is how the bench works in the playoffs and how it works down the line. Because you have plenty of depth there, but they're all young. Hunter Tyson, prime example. Clemson, hope he does well. But that's the only thing I could see. But if these rookies pull through and big role players, especially off the bench and even in the starting lineup, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and even Aaron Gordon as well, Michael Porter Jr. stays on the court, I think you're looking at a team that can go back-to-back, no doubt in my mind. I think it's Nuggets Celtics, and I think the Nuggets win, but this is going to be a fun season. I'm really excited for it. Next up, but before we move on to our next subject, let's talk about Victor Wembanyama for a second. Any projections for him? Anything you see?
I don't think he's going to be everything everybody thinks he is.
I still think I agree with that. I still think he wins Rookie of the Year, though.
I saw a quote.
I can see that.
I saw a quote that someone said, God had made Victor Wembanyama to end the Michael Jordan-LeBron debate. That was his thing. And I was like, that is such a high pressure.
Yeah.
LeBron had just as much pressure. I'm not going to give away from that. But, I mean, that's...
So this is a bad comparison. This is a really bad comparison. But his stature is like a Taco Fall. Now, he's better athlete, better player all around, I think.
He's like if Taco Fall was good at basketball.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think that maybe his rookie season, he has a great rookie season, but I think teams are going to be able to stop him. I think he's not going to be the dominant force everyone thinks he is. I think it's going to be along that.
Yes, I think he's going to have a lot of growing
pains. Because he's really
games.
tall. But the NBA is so tough, and even though he's so tall, like down on the block, down on the post, it's gonna be difficult for him to get that. He's gonna be able to grab rebounds over people's heads, but I don't think he's gonna be the dominant force people think.
Like Giannis would bully him.
Yeah, a guy like Jokic too.
Jokic would bully him. AD would bully him.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking that if you look at Lamar Jackson, kind of took over the NFL and he had to get used to it, or Patrick Mahomes, where his improv. You had to get used to it a little bit, and then once you got used to it, not those players, but some players, once you get used to them, you kind of figure them out.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's going to be the case. It's going to be 15, 20, maybe 30 games at most. He's going to be really good. He's going to have a great rookie season, but then teams are going to start figuring out how to game plan.
Yep. And that's not to say he's going to be a bust. I think he'll be a very solid NBA player. I just don't think he's going to be the superstar.
I do have an honest question. Does anyone else get nervous whenever he jumps, his legs just go?
Yep.
He's so
I have the same thing with Chet. With Chet Holmgren, I'm just I just think he's going to break.
Snap.
Yeah.
And Chet added some muscle, but he still is so tiny.
Yeah.
He's still tiny, just thin.
I think he has. I got a prediction. I think he has 4 blocks tonight. I think he has a big game, over 4 blocks.
Yep.
I'm excited to see it too. I think that he's gonna just. I think he proves everybody wrong, which I'm really excited for.
Really?
Who do you think's gonna have a better rookie season? Chet or?
I think Wembanyama just on the defensive side. I think both of them have pretty identical seasons scoring wise, but I think that the biggest thing I think the final two is going to be Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, but Victor's defense is just gonna help a lot, probably just because of his size. And he's the better shooter too. I mean, I'm not discrediting Chet's shot. He's a better shot than some of these big men in the league, but I think that Victor pulls it out. But we'll see what happens. We have a long season ahead, and I'm excited to see what goes on there. Next up, we're going back to college football, and we're going to talk about a sore subject for all of us, at least, and we're going to be talking about Clemson's loss to Miami on Saturday night. Now, they were up, I believe it was by a score of 17-3, or what was it?
I
They were up 2 touchdowns.
Up 2 touchdowns.
I forget what the score was. I should probably know that. But they were up 2 touchdowns. Miami came back in the last 2 quarters, forced overtime, and they took it in double overtime over Clemson. So, for all of y'all, what does that win mean when it comes to Clemson football?
I'm still thinking.
So I got Dabo question mark, and that's because I'm starting to think this season might not be on Dabo. We lead the FBS in fumbles, 4 or 5 of which have come in the red zone, if not on the goal line. That's on the players. I mean, maybe they could do some ball protection work, but really that's on the players. Don't fumble the football. You think about a lot of the bad play calling, and we have had a lot of bad play calling, but 2 of the big ones that stick out is that 4th and 1 call on the goal line against Miami, where Cade kept it, and then the 3rd down against FSU, where we threw the screen pass and lost a couple yards. Both of those have been audibles by Cade, and that's not what lost us the game, but those are very bad decisions in crucial times, and it wasn't the coach's fault. So I think we have to start looking. There's a lot of blame to be placed on Dabo. And a lot of blame has been placed on Dabo. But I think we also have to start looking at some other options where we've been in a lot of these games. There's been a lot of opportunities for us to win, and the players just haven't gotten it done.
Yeah, I think you're right. But everything, the sins of the son can fall on the father.
Exactly.
Like there's certain things that, culture-wise or maybe discipline-wise that do fall on the coach. But I think there's something else that falls on the coach. Dabo, you're a religious man. I'm a religious man. For the love of God, get in the portal now, dude. Like, you've made your point. I get it. Like, you don't want to be a Clemson guy. You want to be a Clemson guy. If you want to stay at the top and not be moved past like Tennessee was, like Nebraska was, like all these other powers in the 90s, 2000s, Michigan just got back after 20 years. Like they couldn't do anything. You got to get in the portal. You got to adapt to the NIL game. Got to adapt to the portal game. The portal is the most important thing. We need to transfer wide receiver. We're going to need defensive guys. Like for instant plug and play to keep you on, there's no more developing. Like you don't have to wait now to like continue your progress. It's so much pressure on like recruiting class. Now you just need a couple good transfers, just keep plug and play, keep the culture going, which we have a great culture here, and just keep it going forward easier and stay on top and not lose a step while everybody else is learning how to read.
That was a great point.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't write anything just because there are so many things that this means, and it's not just based on this game, but throughout the season. This was kind of like the last, I can't remember the analogy now, but all I'm thinking right now is the last drop in the water bucket before it overflows.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it was. That's the only thing I can think of right now. There's a better analogy.
Straw that breaks the camel's back.
Straw that breaks the camel's back, thank you. And so it's just there's so much. I mean, people are starting to blame the offensive coordinator. First off, it's his first year. Second off, we got to remember, Cade's very young. He's 19. Now, I've been riding him. I've been like on his side. I'm like, yes, he can get through this. He can get through this. I still think he can, but I think it's becoming time that we start looking at playing Vizina. I think it'd be a great opportunity, no, not over him, but just to get him experience this year. Because
Cade has 2 more years.
I'm going to be honest.
Yes.
Brian, I like Chris Vizina too. You do that, you kill Cade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's
I'm
done.
not saying he takes over. I was thinking more like you put Vizina in for the majority of NC State. It's not a great.
Cade's dead.
Yeah, Cade's now the Cade.
And then I was
going to
put Cade back in for like Notre Dame and like for those.
Dead.
No.
Like if you do that, you kill his
You
con.
need-
I like the idea,
to
but
suc-
it's like a human
To
side.
succeed,
He's
to
dead.
succeed,
True, 'cause you're
you,
gonna take
and to
Think
succeed, you need.
of how DJ and Cade kind of related to last year.
Yeah.
As soon as you put Cade Klubnik into that game against
DJ was
Syracuse, DJ was dead. DJ had no more hope for the rest. I mean, take a look what happened a week later at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
It's just like there's so much into this, and I almost think the way I was thinking of it was that Vizina would get playing time and Cade would just get a breather, just a break to kind of like.
Vizina's not going to play any time in the next 2 years. Unless Cade gets hurt or transfers, he's not going to
Vizina might not ever play.
Yeah.
Well, if Cade picks it up, he's probably going to go out next year, so then Vizina would put.
Why would he go? He's not an NFL quarterback. Are you saying he's going to go?
I'm saying if he picks it up. I'm saying if he gets better, like in these last few games. And
We talked about this. He thinks he's like a mid-round guy. I don't personally think he's like an NFL.
He's not even a Ben DiNucci.
I'm just saying if he gets better.
like.
No, I'm not.
He's
okay.
not a.
He'll be a
I'm not saying he's
seventh-round
good.
guy.
Like
Yeah.
again,
But not
he's-
right now.
He's very
Not even
young.
next year.
He's 19. Absolutely. I mean, this is like us going out there in front of 80,000 fans expecting to perform at the top of our level with all this pressure. And so I'm just simply saying if he were to pick it up this last half of the season and really gets into it, and then has an even better season next year, brings the Tigers into the top 10, I could see him going on.
He'll stick around to try and make the playoffs, especially with a 12-team playoff.
If he has a massive year next year, though, I could see it.
I could see it too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if it would almost be
I don't think
That would be like
I
massive
think
season next year would probably be like
I'm thinking like a hooker jump.
we're in the
like
national
30 plus touchdowns.
He leaves
Clemson
if we
goes
make
to
the
the
national
playoffs.
championship.
Yeah.
But
That's, I think, the only way he leaves.
I just think this is also kind of like a point where this game
Maybe
was
to
kind
the
of like,
finals.
all right, guys, it's settled. We got to just start looking into next season. I think that was like the main is what I would have to probably sum up how I felt. It's just kind of like this is it. There's no more hope. I mean, that sounds bad, but there's no more hope for a championship.
We might not make a bowl game.
We might get a bowl game.
Stop.
We might get a bowl
Come on
game,
now.
but it's just kind of it's kind of like all right, let's move on. Let's just prepare for next year.
We're going to win at least 8 games. I'd like to win 9 if we can beat Notre Dame, but we're going to win 8 games.
I see us winning NC State and Georgia Tech, especially because Georgia Tech's home. I see us probably.
USC is trash.
I think we're going to beat UNC and USC. That's a high task. I think we'll lose to Notre Dame. I just like Notre Dame.
That's fair.
Better. I think we can beat UNC at home. But
Yeah. I think we're going to probably, unfortunately, I think we're going to run into a loss. Like out of the next couple of games, I think we're going to finish 8-4.
Yep.
That is what it is.
Fair enough. For me, I'm kind of looking a little bit more optimistic. With this loss, it's time to infiltrate other teams. Like you said, let's look at who they have to play. They have to play Notre Dame, UNC, and South Carolina, as well as a potential bowl game. And if you string a couple more wins together, you could play a top opponent. I think it's huge. If you beat Notre Dame 2 weeks from now, I think you bring the program back on its feet. You beat a huge, huge school who has a killer resume. I think same thing goes with UNC. If you beat UNC, you take them out of the ACC contention, and now you're starting to feel good. Like, oh, okay, like here we go. We have life. Same thing goes for South Carolina. A rivalry win always tastes good, especially with revenge. And same thing with the bowl game. If you're playing a top 25 opponent, let's say Pac-12, SEC, you beat them, you're completely good for next season. I think they just need to use this as motivation. Not really have much to lose compared to what they had to lose last week. So I think if you string a couple wins together, shock the world maybe 1 or 2 times, I think you're looking at a team that has a lot more motivation than it did last year.
You know what, to add on to your point, look at Oklahoma last year, 6-7. You know, a program that was expected to do great, new regime. We didn't have a new head coach, but we had a new offense coordinator, new system, new quarterback, everything like that. 6-7 last year. Now they're national title contenders. Like, could just be like one down year for like Oklahoma, a national program for over the past playoff, like just like we've been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, could be next year's our Oklahoma year.
I just thought it was funny when Griffin said infiltrate. I started thinking Michigan. I'm like, we can't go to the dark side. We can't be buying tickets out.
I'm not talking that. I'm just saying, hey.
Mr. Stallions.
Yes, I was like, we can't be going over there.
We got a job for you.
That's funny. Next, all right, so going there, we're going to the professionals. We're going to the NFL. So next week, I believe it is on Halloween, the trade deadline occurs in the NFL. And there have been a couple of players that have been talked about, especially on the lower end teams, to be traded. So who is one player that you think should be dealt at the trade deadline?
I mean, I can start with this. So, I mean, I was looking at a bunch of these players. I'd say NFL's probably my top where I always get enthralled, especially at the trade deadline. It always gives me like a run of endorphins, I guess you could say. So you have Dalvin Cook. I thought that was one good. Brian Burns, Justin Jefferson, all these different rumors or stuff like that. But one player that sticks out to me that I think will benefit both sides, the player and the team, is Patrick Surtain II. He's from Denver. He's a cornerback for the Denver Broncos. He's very young. I think he's 23. And with how much capital between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton that the Broncos have given up in the last 2 years, I mean, I don't think they have a pick this year. I don't think they have a pick next year because of it, because they gave 2 up for Sean Payton, and I think 1, if not 2, for Russell Wilson as well. Yeah. All that going out the door, you need something to bring back this rebuild, because all you're doing right now is just pushing this rebuild off. Russell Wilson has not been able to find himself yet. He's been better. He'd probably be better next year. But I think one way to kind of kickstart this is to trade Patrick Surtain. You're going to get a really good haul back, especially if you trade with the right team. And it'll give Patrick Surtain, who's been excellent, it might give him to a contender if you go, I don't know, the Eagles have been looking for secondary help, people like that, teams like that.
He gets the Eagles, I quit.
Oh, I know. With them getting Byard and now Mal Surtain. And then I've also heard he might be going to the Ravens.
Still
the Ravens
find a way to lose.
It.
I could see that.
I could see the Ravens going into it because they need cornerback help. So now the Ravens get a boost, Patrick Surtain gets onto a contender, and the Broncos get a first-round pick, if not 2, if not even 3. I mean, looking at that with a few players.
3?
What? I'm just saying, I don't know how they would be looking, because the Ravens have a low pick. They're going to be 28, which is basically a second round. So you're going to be looking.
Oh, are you saying 3 picks?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
I thought you were talking
first
three
rounders.
first
Oh,
rounders.
no. Sorry. I said that wrong. No. I'm saying like 1 first round, maybe like a lower tier player, and then maybe like a backup cornerback.
That's fine.
So I'm looking at Patrick Surtain with that. I think it'd be a great restart, and I think it'll just help the Broncos kind of kickstart their rebuild.
Speaking of teams that need picks, the Carolina Panthers need picks. So if you have to deal on anyone, I think it's Brian Burns. And you're looking at a guy who can be an all-pro caliber defensive lineman, an all-star caliber defensive lineman. But the Carolina Panthers don't have any picks. You are going to give away probably a top 5 pick in the draft, which could have guaranteed you maybe a Caleb Williams, maybe a Drake May, maybe a Marvin Harrison, especially if you're looking for a Bryce Young first option. But you got to deal with Brian Burns. Maybe you get a first-round pick of next season to a team like the Ravens, like the Eagles, but I don't think the Eagles will deal for him. Like a team that's waiting for that caliber defensive lineman to help boost their defense. So with that being said, I think Burns has to go if they're Carolina, especially for the future, because I don't think they're gonna completely flip their season. They're 0-6. They're the only winless team. You have to get a first-round pick. I think you got to deal Burns.
And after last year when they had that first, I believe the offer was 2 first-round picks and a player, if not like a second-round pick or something. And always hindsight's always 20/20, but to miss out on that, it's a very big hit for them.
They could get something similar.
Hopefully,
It's not like he's regressed.
The only thing is that he's going into a contract year, so
Right,
he has to
that's the
spend
problem.
money.
That's the thing.
Yep. I'm going a little bit different route. I'm going Hunter Henry. Not somebody who's superstar talent necessarily, but a very solid player. His last 5 seasons, he's caught 40 passes. He's on track to do that again this season. He's a very solid run blocker, pass blocker. He's pretty solid as well. He's just a very solid tight end. And a team that's looking to make a run that is finding their way back is the Cincinnati Bengals. And they do not have a tight end right now. I mean, I looked at their
Irv
3
Smith.
Exactly.
The Alabama product himself.
So like I looked at, and they don't. You've never heard of a Cincinnati tight end catching a touchdown, and having someone like
Not since
Hunter
Tyler Eifert, man.
CJ Uzama.
Okay, you guys are just throwing out.
It's a long time. No, it's a long time.
Yeah, so
Gone down.
you get a slightly above average height tight end, a very large tight end, somebody who's going to take up space, who's going to be another person to worry about for teams' defenses. It's just going to give your wideouts a lot more options. Joe Burrow, yet another option, and it makes their offense look a lot scarier than they already do.
Yeah, I mean, I love both of you, what you two said, and you, honestly, but I'm going to go with, I really like the Broncos and the Pats, right? Those are 2 teams that I think are going to sell. Trent Brown, offensive tackle for the New England Patriots. He's been one of the best offensive tackles in football, and I think there's some to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Didn't they just re-sign him, though, or they just renegotiated his contract?
They renegotiated his contract so they can
to 1 year
work some cap stuff going around. So I think he's definitely movable. I like Josie Jewell, linebacker for the Denver Broncos. I think he's a good linebacker. He was out of Iowa, I think he was 3rd-round pick. He's been pretty good. I think he's in a contract year. He's definitely somebody who can move. And I think Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy has failed as a Denver Bronco. I think Jerry Jeudy could definitely thrive in some other situations, but maybe it's a character issue.
Steve Smith Sr. did not look good. Did you see that all?
I thought he looked good.
No. I'm saying the Steve Smith Sr. comments when they had the back and forth, and then on the interview.
Who do you think it looked bad on?
I'm thinking Jerry Jeudy looked too mature.
I would agree.
Steve Smith Sr. was great. I think he could have acted a little better, but I think he did it in a professional manner at least.
Right.
Jerry Jeudy walking back there yelling, I didn't even remember what he said, to be honest. But all of that was
just not a good look.
I didn't like it. But yeah, I think I love what we got at the table for trades. I wish the NFL trade deadline is gonna be this exciting, because usually you have all these rumors and then it's like 2 trades.
Yep.
But
The only exciting one generally is the MLB, pretty much.
Yeah. That's
pretty much it.
Broncos are going to trade Sean Payton for Mike McDaniel.
NBA
They can score 70 on a night.
NBA was popping for like 3 years.
Yeah,
like
had
from
a
like
couple
2015 to like 2018, it was popping.
Yeah.
Anywho, we got that. We'll see what happens next week with the trade deadline. Maybe one of these players that we mentioned will be traded, but we don't know for now. We'll know a few days from now. But we're going to move into the NFL Pick'em section, and we're going to start with the Battle of New York. We got the Jets and the Giants traveling. Well, they're not traveling. They're both technically at home. But Giants-Jets, always a fun matchup. Who do you guys got in this one?
I got the Jets. I think they're a very surprising team this year. I think they have a very solid team. The problem is Zach Wilson is their quarterback, so he's hit or miss. But Giants are iffy on who's their quarterback is going to be right now. If you tell me Tyrod Taylor's playing, maybe I lean toward the Giants just because I like Tyrod Taylor. But if Daniel Jones is back at quarterback, I have the Jets all day.
I'm going to go with Gangrene. I hate to say it, but as a Jets guy, maybe back in on Zach Wilson. He's winning football games. He's not being that terrible. But I just think the Giants are not really prepared for this game. Tyrod Taylor's looked great, though. I will say that. Tyrod Taylor, I always feel bad for that guy. Yeah. Because, he does, if the Bills take Josh Allen, right, smart move on their part, in hindsight. But, the guy's just so unlucky. He was Chargers, then he got stabbed in the heart by that doctor. Yeah. Browns got hurt, then they went to Mayfield. Tyrod Taylor's a a very, very good starting quarterback. So I think he'll give us some fits. The Jets defense, though, is incredible. And I'm gonna go with the Jets.
I'm going to go with the Jets as well. I'm sorry, Griffin. I mean, we're all going Gangrene on you, so you're going to be surrounded by us.
You're all good.
I just think you don't look at quarterbacks. You don't look at home field advantage. Home field advantage is taken out because, they're right there. So if it was Giants home, Jets home, that would sway it just because both these teams are kind of similar. But I trust the Jets defense a lot more than I trust Wink Martindale-led Giants defense. They haven't really looked great. Deonte Banks has looked fabulous. He's from Maryland. He's been great. I really liked him as a rookie. I know, he's from Maryland, so I had to throw him in there.
Throw the Maryland card.
But he's looked very good, at least as a rookie. I just don't trust Daniel Jones, and he's probably going to be playing this week, I think, if I heard. And if it was Tyrod Taylor, it's almost the same to me as Deshaun Watson and P.J. Walker. If it's the backup in, for some reason, the backups are just playing better. I don't know why. But for those two teams.
P.J. Walker's not playing good. He's just winning football games.
Yeah.
I hope Tyrod Taylor finds a place like Geno Smith at some point.
I would love that.
That would be so cool if he could do that. Maybe it's like the Raiders.
Dude, I remember he was always dual-threat quarterback that I would use in Madden, Bills guy, Madden Mobile. Tyrod Taylor was the man.
I got tired of sitting in the pocket with Joe Flacco. I'd switch to Tyrod
Taylor.
I'd be going off. But I definitely think the Jets defense is going to carry him. I think it's going to be low scoring. I would be shocked if it's put up more because, like we said, Tyrod Taylor matched Daniel Jones' season passing touchdowns in one game. And I feel bad because we're all looking at Griffin with this. But I'm going to go Jets.
I can't go against my team, and every time I go against my team, we win. But
do it.
I'm not taking the Jets. I'm not taking the Jets. My brother would be laughing his butt off right now if he'd be watching this because he's a Jets fan. But I think the Giants are going to find a way to do it. I think especially with Wink Martindale, the way that he blitzes. Yes, the offensive line for the Jets is pretty solid, but especially when you're putting Zach Wilson in situations like that with a solid defense, I will say the Giants' defense is pretty solid. It's very tough to do, especially when you're throwing guys right at Zach Wilson off the cut. I think, like Brian said, low scoring. It's going to be 14-13, 17-14, no more than 4 touchdowns in total per each team. But I think the Giants pull this out in a field goal. I think whether it be Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones. I hope it's Tyrod Taylor, rest Jones some more. Game manager, drive the team down the field in the last couple minutes, see what happens. But maybe that's just bias. You're shaking your head.
Definitely go under. That's all we're saying. Definitely go under.
Just take the under. I don't have any faith in either team scoring. But we'll see what happens there. But we'll move on to some better teams. We got 2 2-loss teams. We got the 5-2 Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the 4-2 Steelers. Who comes out of this one?
I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I saw you Jaguars, so I'm going to jump in front of this gun. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, great, hard place to play. I'm a Kenny Pickett guy. I think that the Jaguars have been rolling. And I think this is just the Steelers' trap that they walk into. It's just we've seen that Jaguars offense get really ugly at times this season, and we know that's how Pittsburgh plays. We know the entire team hates Matt Canada, and as we saw, Chris Bodwell was literally yelling at Matt Canada after I think the win 2 weeks ago, and he's not because of you, not because of you. The kicker is yelling at the offensive coordinator. That's how you know the entire team doesn't like the offensive coordinator. When the kicker, who, no offense, but, it's not like he's got the most pull in the locker room. When the kicker has enough confidence to say that to your OC, it's not really a good thing, and I think he is terrible. But I think the defense is great, and I think they're going to muck it up, and, Tomlin at home.
Mm-hmm. You make a very good point.
Whenever you think Tomlin in the Steelers are going to lose, they win. Whenever you think they're going to win, they lose.
That's fair. That's very fair. But the Jaguars, like you said, they're rolling 4 straight. I think the Steelers' defense is very, very good and could easily shut down this Jaguars offense, but I really don't trust Kenny Pickett. I just can't. I can't bet for him. Like, I can't put my money on Kenny Pickett, and so that's why I'm going with the Jaguars.
I trust Kenny Pickett.
Me too.
He went to my rival high school. I will go with the Steelers. They're at home. Win streak's got to stop somehow. Yes, the Jaguars won 4 straight, but Trevor Lawrence has had a lingering injury. I think, despite what everyone's saying about Matt Canada, the Steelers' offense looks a little better. It doesn't look perfect. It's not the Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown type offense, but they're moving the ball better than I've ever seen them this season. And I think their defense is top 3 in the league. I think you stop Trevor Lawrence. I think you stop the running attack. I think that the Steelers, like David said, can make this game really ugly. And I like the Steelers in an ugly game.
I don't trust Kenny Pickett.
You're a Ravens fan.
I am. And that's also why we played chess, not checkers. We made them succeed so Matt Canada could say, no, I'm just messing with you. Kenny Pickett will be a decent quarterback. This is just in the long run. That's how I feel. I think he can still be a starting quarterback. He's not going to be top 10. He's not going to be top 12. I really just don't trust Matt Canada. And until Matt Canada moves on, I will probably not trust the Steelers. And I respect Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization as a whole. It's just I don't trust Matt Canada. Did you see him on the Ravens' winning drive? They throw a 40-yard touchdown. It turns out it was an audible or something, and Matt Canada's all ticked off even though they won because it was a whole big thing. But I'm definitely going Jaguars. I trust the Jaguars a lot more than the Steelers. They're really on a roll. And, yes, I do believe their win streak will end soon. I just don't see it happening with the Steelers. Their defense is incredible. I think it's very underrated this year. They're very good, but I mean, I've looked at rankings and they put the Steelers at like 7, 8, 9, and I'm like, how are you putting the Chiefs above the Steelers? It's all a whole big thing. But I'm definitely going Jaguars. I think they're gonna win probably about 7, 10 points.
Interesting. Speaking of another AFC North team that is pulled off very good, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. The 4-2 Cleveland Browns will be traveling to Seattle to the 12th man to take on the 5-2 Seahawks. Another 2-loss matchup. This is another exciting one for me. What do you guys have in this one?
Seattle's 5-2.
Seattle's 5-2, or 4-2. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay,
Yes.
that makes a little more sense.
We're 4-2.
Oh, yeah.
I have to go with the Seahawks as a Seattle fan. You can't bet against your own team like Griffin. But unfortunately, I don't have much to say in their defense. They did not look good last week against the Bengals. All I can say is we got the 12th man at home, and it's always going to be tough to play there.
I'm gonna go on Toby's end. I like Seattle. I think they're rolling, and I just think this is a weird game because I didn't expect the Browns, especially with PJ Walker, to succeed. They beat the Niners. They beat the Colts. I don't really see it. I don't know. This is one of those games that you're just like, I don't see the Browns winning this game, especially with a backup quarterback. But the Browns defense will keep them in this one. Once again, another low-scoring game. I don't think either team goes over 20 points.
You're gonna go ahead, David.
I think the quarterbacks for the Browns is going to stink either way. You know, it's like I think they like P.J. Walker more than they like Deshaun Watson. I'm serious. Like, I don't think Deshaun Watson is that good anymore. Like, he hasn't shown it in any time in Cleveland. You know, spend an entire year out. You know, it's tough. But I think Seattle is a really good football team. Like, you watch the tape, and, like, they just are so much better, like, than people realize. So I'm going to go Seattle. I think P.J. Walker, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 wins. At some point, like, it's going to just, you know, the curtain's going to get pulled, right? And I think this is the game the curtain gets pulled.
This is such a tough game. I mean, I wrote down, so if you want me to see, I wrote down, like, each of, like, the Browns, because unlike the Steelers, I think the Browns' defense is overrated a little bit. I still think they're top 5, top 10, but they're not the number 1 defense in here. I would argue that 49ers are number 1, or even the Ravens are up there in the top 3. Eagles are now with Kevin Byard will probably be in the top 3. I mean, they've been doing well recently. It's really tough to grade this. P.J. Walker always finds a way to win, no matter what team he's on, whether it's the Panthers, whether it's the Bears, whether it's the
Guardians.
The Browns, the Guardians. He finds
the
a way to
Roughnecks.
win.
No, he's on the Roughnecks.
The Roughnecks. He finds a way to win. But I think Seattle will win. Like, I just don't see them going into Seattle. I think that home field advantage, unlike the New York game, the home field advantage is so strong in Seattle. I mean, it is called the 12th man for a reason.
Right.
It's hard for me to believe that a defense, I mean, Myles Garrett's not going to have a game like he had last week. At least not back-to-back weeks where he has a blocked field goal, 2 sacks, 2 passes, or whatever it was, 4 tackles, however much he had. I just don't see that happening back-to-back. So I'm going to go on the side of the Seahawks. I think their offense will find a way, but I think their defense will be able to shut down PJ Walker. I haven't heard Amari Cooper's name a lot recently. I don't know if he's been injured. I haven't heard.
No,
He hasn't been there. Donovan Peoples-Jones hasn't showed up like he did a year ago. Deshaun Watson I heard someone say that if P.J. Walker ends up pulling off this win, that locker room will probably be divided. This is a fan saying it. That locker room will probably be divided.
Locker room's already divided.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if this win happens, he's
place.
3 in a row. He's beat the 49ers, the Vikings, the Seahawks. But I find that semi-hard to believe, so I'm going to go Seahawks.
Speaking of another AFC North team, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals now. I mean, just how loaded is this AFC North division? I think any team can make the playoff. I think any team can make a deep run just based off whether their defense or offense can carry them. But Cincinnati Bengals will be traveling on Sunday, not Sunday Night Football. They got the 4:30 game. They'll be taking on the San Francisco 49ers in San Fran. Who do you guys like in this one? Two teams on different levels. Brock Purdy, I think, is out. I think it was just announced.
Concussion.
He's out.
Sam Darnold's the quarterback now. Is Sam Darnold going to get it done, or you like Burrow and the Bengals?
Shout out to my dad, big 49ers fan. I'm going to go with the 49ers. Perfect bounce back spot. You know, Sam Darnold, as much as people give Sam Darnold crap, he's been probably the unluckiest quarterback in the history of the NFL in terms of what he's had to deal with and what he's been thrown into. He was thrown into the Jets with Adam Gase. He was thrown into the Panthers with Matt Rule, and we still saw flashes. Now you got him in the perfect system that people always say Brock Purdy's benefiting from. I think Sam Darnold is a similar talent level to Brock Purdy. He can move. He can hit his reads. I'm going to go Sam Darnold big time here. I'm going to go with 49ers. Huge bounce back game. I think Sam Darnold's going to have a big game, and shout out Dad.
I absolutely agree. I think he hit the nail on the head with Sam Darnold. I think he's a very solid quarterback, nothing special. I think he'll make a couple bad throws in the game. I think he'll have an interception or two that maybe Brock Purdy wouldn't have had. But I think the 49ers are still so strong. Their defense is so good. Christian McCaffrey looks back to just about full health. I mean, 2 touchdowns last week. They'll be without Deebo Samuel, but I think Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle will be able to make up that difference. And the Bengals, while they're on an upward trend, they're still iffy. I just think the 49ers are too good as a whole to lose that game.
I'll take it. I like the 49ers. We'll make it 3 at the panel. Yeah, I think Darnold fits in the Shanahan system. I think any quarterback fits in the system. But like David said, Darnold has not had great coaching along the way. But I think McCaffrey is a big game. You're going to put the offense on his shoulders. The offensive line is so dominant, and so is the defense. I think Nick Bosa gets Joe Burrow a couple times. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cincinnati Bengals won this game. They've strung a lot of wins together as of late, coming off a bye week 2. But home field advantage, and the 49ers are the best team on paper in the league, so I'm just going to keep going with them.
Bengals defense is very good, and Debo's probably not going to play.
No. Yeah. Still got Brandon Ayuk, though.
Yeah. Then who do you got behind Brandon Ayuk?
Ayuk's looking like the number 1.
I wide receiver. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like Jawan Jennings.
Jawan's, yeah.
I like Jawan
Kittle.
Ray McLeod.
Yeah.
With
With how good of a pass-catching threat CMC
Yeah, you're right.
is,
You're
it's
totally
it's
right.
tough.
Yeah.
This is another tough one to look at. As much as the Bengals they've won a few games, they've stringed them together, they just still don't look like the Bengals. It's just, I don't trust them as much. I don't trust them as much as I did last year, I should say. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think the Bengals defense, they might be pretty good. I'm thinking top 15, top 10, maybe fringe top 10. I just don't see them containing the 49ers, especially now that the 49ers are pretty much ticked off because they've lost 2 straight to teams that they should have blown out or at least beat, compared to paper, if you compare paper to paper. But I don't see Sam Darnold being that much of a drop-off from Brock Purdy, which also kind of helps my point of the MVP from the last conversation we had. But I just definitely think that when Brock Purdy comes back, he's going to do well. He's going to succeed. But I think that Sam Darnold will be able to fill in that spot until he comes back. I think Sam Darnold, just like David had mentioned, he's been in a really unlucky career, not so much with injuries, but with situations that he's been put in. He hasn't really been put in a place to succeed, and he was arguably the number 1 pick that year and looked as one of the better prospects in recent memory at that time. So I think the 49ers are going to do well. I think it's going to be a close game, kind of like Seattle. I'm getting kind of like a 21-17, 17-14 is kind of how I think it's going to fall out. But I'm going to go 49ers.
Interesting. Yeah. Real fast before we go, obviously probably we got the Fall Classic coming up. The Diamondbacks and the Rangers both won in 7 games over the Phillies and the Astros respectively. Real fast before we go, who wins how many games? Who likes what?
Rangers in 6. The Rangers
I have
offense.
Rangers in 6.
That's
The
exactly
Rangers
what I
offense
said.
is so good. I mean, so good. They've put up 71 runs in 12 games. 71. Adolis Garcia is on the hottest of hot streaks. He's had 5 home runs in the last 4 games. They're just good. And they haven't all been hitting that well. They just find a way to put up runs. I think they have like a 267 batting average throughout the postseason. Like, they're obviously facing great pitching.
8-0
but that's
on the road.
not that great for putting up 71 runs. However, as we've seen in the postseason this year, I mean, the Phillies bats went quiet game 6 and 7. I think
all
their
about the
stars
pitching.
were 1 for 28 in their last 28 at bats. So if the Rangers bats go quiet, the Diamondbacks will sneak up on them and take this series. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's Rangers in 6, could even be 5.
Yep.
Because I'm very confident in a Rangers victory because, bats are great. Like what we saw the Phillies cool off. If the bats cool off, they got Jordan Montgomery, they got Max Scherzer. They got a great bullpen. The Diamondbacks have Brandon Pfaadt and Zach Allen.
Well, an interesting stat to look at, the Rangers have a worse ERA in the postseason than the Diamondbacks do.
Crazy.
The Rangers are 3.67 and the Diamondbacks are 3.23.
You got to think of the Diamondbacks have played. Well, besides Milwaukee, they've played the Dodgers and they've played the Phillies, who are
They played 2 of the best offenses.
Powerhouse.
Powerhouses, and they shut them down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shout out Brandon
I thought it
Pfaadt.
was a cool stat that they continued the line of people that have beaten the Brewers to go to the World Series in all time since 1981. They continued it, which is really cool.
bad for the
And then the other stat was that the Rangers were 8 for 8 on the road this year for wins. They were 8-0. It's going to be tough. I mean, they are the higher seed, so they're not really going to have that road advantage until 3rd, 4th game. But it's tough for me to go against this offense. If the D-backs happen to tie it to 3-3 and it goes into a Game 7, I would not be shocked if the D-backs take it. But for me, I'm going Rangers in 6. It's kind of ironic that we all had the same exact record, at least the 3 of us. So I think the Rangers offense will be there. I think they're going to be able to outscore them better than if the D-backs can shut them down. So I'm going to go Rangers.
I think the biggest thing, especially in the World Series, is experience. And I'm not discrediting the Diamondbacks, but there's not much experience there. They're a very young team, and they are a really fun team to watch. But I'm going to go with the Rangers strictly because I like their experience better. Obviously, they have Max Scherzer there. They have Corey Seager. Both of them, I believe, have won World Series. And you just have the offense across the board. Anybody
Bruce Bochy.
Bruce Bochy, who was he with?
Giants. He won the World Series.
Yeah.
Padres,
Giants. But yeah, anybody on that starting lineup for the Rangers can get a hit. I'd be confident with any player on that first 9 to get on base, which is a great thing. I think the Diamondbacks could win this one. They have the heart. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it, but I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers to win in 7 games.
I don't feel all eerie because we all chose the Rangers.
Yeah.
I still believe in them, but I'm not feeling a little eerie.
You make a very good point with experience, but the Diamondbacks have been winning without the experience. And like I saw a stat when they were playing the Game 7, they have one player on their team that has had one game of Game 7 experience. Like they hadn't had anybody else ever.
That's still more than the Phillies.
7.
The Phillies had 0 in postseason.
Yeah.
The Phillies have never had a Game 7 postseason. Now they're 0 for 1, which is just kind of.
Well, he meant players.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I'm saying that player had more
just don't
experience than the
have-
whole Phillies organization in postseason.
True.
Exactly.
Fair point.
Which is pretty fun.
Exactly. So whether or not we're completely wrong, the Diamondbacks take this, just blame us for that. But we'll be finding that soon enough. Probably, I think beginning of November is when the series ends. So come back to this video if the Diamondbacks win. But anywho, that's gonna do it for us here on a really, really fun and special episode of the Extra Point. And yeah, we'll see you guys with another episode next week. See ya.